Chris Billam-Smith versus Isaac Chamberlain. Now, in the live stream that I did prior to this fight, I picked Chris Billam-Smith to win. I was kind of 50-50 on the fence, but I said if I had to pick somebody, I'd go with Billam-Smith, having home advantage, the fight being in Bournemouth. And by the way, it really was a refreshing change to see a fight like this take place in Bournemouth, which of course is Chris Billam-Smith's hometown. They got a beautiful beach down there. I've been to many places in the UK, and by far the nicest beach in terms of a town is Bournemouth. I know they've got nice beaches out there in Cornwall and stuff like that, which are kind of more out of the way, you know, next to little villages and whatever. But Bournemouth is a pretty major town. Not sure if it has city status, but it's certainly a major town. And they've got a beautiful beach down there, miles and miles and miles of actual proper sand and a lovely blue sea. So it was nice during the week seeing the build-up, the activities that they arranged for the Sky crew, like volleyball and stuff like that on the beach, all good fun. It would have been more interesting to actually have the fight outdoors. I don't know if Bournemouth has a venue that would facilitate that. Some people were saying that, you know, during the build-up that there was fight camp vibes about this. And that's how I felt, actually. I felt like Eddie Hearn seriously missed the trick here, because when you looked at the build-up to the fight during fight week, it had Eddie Hearn written all over it. Do you know what I mean? It was his kind of scenario on the beach with his sunglasses on, you know, Cartiers on, cracking jokes with Coogan, playing a bit of volleyball, being the center of attention. That's Eddie Hearn all over. The fact that it wasn't him doing this and it was Ben Shalom instead, I'm sure Eddie Hearn was looking at it thinking, that should have been me. You know, because Ben Shalom, the way he looks, is socially awkward as hell. He doesn't come across as a guy that has that type of, magnetic personality and charisma. And the reason I say this is because as a boxing promoter, it helps to have charisma. It helps to be a showman. It helps to be somebody who is good socially, you know, in terms of promoting your events. But nonetheless, I thought it was very interesting having it in Bournemouth. But one day, I would personally like to see them have the fight outside in Bournemouth. They get plenty of good weather down there. So a fight outside, maybe with the beach as the backdrop, if they can sort that out somehow. Anyway, getting on to the fight itself, Chris Billam-Smith and Isaac Chamberlain. As I said in my pre-fight live stream, I was kind of edging towards Billam-Smith. The fight went similar to how I expected it to go. But this might sound a little harsh. I was slightly disappointed by Isaac Chamberlain. Slightly disappointed by his performance. Chamberlain is a relatively slick fighter, although he got hit plenty here. You know, his defense wasn't great. But normally he's a relatively slick fighter. He can make people miss, make them pay. You know, he's a nice little sharpshooter at times. But the issue that I've always seen with Isaac Chamberlain is a lack of aggressive instinct. He lacks the ability to take the fight by the scruff of the neck and just get things done when he's in there against, you know, somebody on his level or better than his level. He's shown an inability to do that. And it was the same here, because Chris Billam-Smith came out the blocks like Usain Bolt. 100-mile-an-hour start. I think that being in front of his home crowd probably made him a bit too excited, and he expended a tremendous amount of energy in the early rounds trying to get Isaac Chamberlain out of there. And to credit Isaac Chamberlain with something, he's certainly got a good chin, and we saw that in the Lawrence Okolie fight. He was dropped early by Okolie, but he managed to come through. He's certainly got a good chin. He's very tough physically. He's got plenty of heart. But the aggressive instinct is just not there. So Chris Billam-Smith, the opposite, right? Loads of aggressive instinct. Comes out there, sticks it on Isaac Chamberlain, tries to get him out of there, doesn't succeed, but he apparently does some pretty serious damage. According to Isaac Chamberlain, he suffered a fractured orbital bone in the third round. As you can see here from this tweet, he says that he broke his orbital bone in the third round, but fought to the end. Are you willing to die for this? I'm built for this, and I'll be back. Right? He posts some pictures as well. So Isaac Chamberlain apparently damaged, and he certainly had a swollen eye and whatever, and he was cut later on in the fight. But after 4 rounds of Billam-Smith fighting like the Tasmanian devil, he slowed down tremendously in the 5th, 6th, etc., to the point where he was actually moving around the perimeter of the ring, trying to run down the clock and fiddle his way through rounds because he'd expended so much energy to the point where he nearly punched himself out. You could see in his body language that he was dog tired. But somehow, Isaac Chamberlain didn't press home his advantage. Now, the commentators later on said that perhaps Isaac Chamberlain is just as tired and was just as tired as Chris Billam-Smith all along, but he just disguises his fatigue better. And I guess that's a possibility. But on the other hand, it's also possible that Isaac Chamberlain just doesn't have the innate aggressive instinct that is necessary in situations like this to actually push home and pursue his advantage. I suspect it's the latter. Now, other people are going to say, well, if he had a fractured orbital bone, he's going to be a lot more cognizant of getting hit with something big because the pain must be tremendous, you know? And I have to take that into account as well. But the reason I say what I'm saying is because this isn't the first time that Chamberlain has shown a lack of urgency to grab a fight by the scruff of the neck and take it to his opponent. So I was a little disappointed there because Chris Billam-Smith, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to say he was there for the taking, but he was vulnerable clearly after 4 or 5 rounds because he spent so much energy. If he'd been in there with a Richard Riakporhe or a Lawrence Okolie or, name your cruiserweight that has a strong aggressive instinct. And when I say aggressive instinct, I'm not talking about a guy who is necessarily a pressure fighter, no, but a guy who, when he sees his opponent is tired or vulnerable, he can step on the gas pedal immediately and seize the moment, seize the opportunity. Yeah. If Billam-Smith had been in with one of the fighters I just mentioned, I think he would have found himself in trouble. Okay, not just because they're bigger punchers than Isaac Chamberlain, but because they have that aggressive instinct. They step on the gas when the opportunity arises. Chamberlain didn't do that. Billam-Smith was moving around, clearly looking to run down the clock, clearly looking to fiddle his way through large stretches of the rounds. And Isaac Chamberlain was just following him around the ring, maintaining this distance and not doing anything. And the reason it was even more puzzling is because Billam-Smith is nowhere near as effective on the back foot as he is on the front foot. When Isaac Chamberlain actually did push forward and start putting shots together, he was having success against Chris Billam-Smith. But he just didn't do it often enough. In fact, later on in the fight, his corner, in fact, I think it was going into the 12th, his corner told him you need a knockout. And he didn't actually really go for it properly until about the last 10 or 15 seconds of the round, in round 12. That's when Isaac Chamberlain actually emptied the tank and was throwing everything at Chris Billam-Smith because he appeared to buzz him slightly towards the very end of the 12th round. He should have been doing that back in the 5th and 6th rounds. I'm not saying empty the tank completely where you've punched yourself out as well, but he should have been far more assertive and aggressive when Billam-Smith was moving around trying to catch some respite. Yeah, so people talk about Billam-Smith's experience, his tenacity and so on. Yeah, all these things played a factor in him winning. But what also played a major part, for my money, is just Isaac Chamberlain's innate lack of aggressive instinct. It cost him here. Yeah. So anyway, the fight was a good one. The first 4 rounds in particular, because Billam-Smith started so fast, were very entertaining. There was some big punches landed by both guys. Billam-Smith was actually rocked, I seem to remember, in the first 4 rounds, as well as Isaac Chamberlain being rocked. But as the fight progressed, it settled down a little bit into more of a pattern, as I say, where Billam-Smith would attack in spurts, where he would come forward and bully Chamberlain. Then he would take parts of the round off, where he was moving around the perimeter of the ring, and Chamberlain wasn't pressing the action and not allowing Chris Billam-Smith to rest. Now I remember George Foreman many years ago, and he should know, right, because he was a huge puncher. I remember him many years ago saying that when you fight a big puncher, particularly heavyweight, when you fight a big puncher, after they've unloaded their shots on you, as long as you're still okay, you haven't been knocked out, let's say you've blocked most of them, once they've unloaded all their shots, you need to jump on them. You need to follow them. Don't, not necessarily follow them, but you need to jump on them, because that's another thing George Foreman used to say, never follow a puncher. But he said, whenever a puncher has unloaded their heavy shots, you need to get straight back on them. Don't allow them to rest, because that's what they want to do. They're relying on intimidating you with their power. And that intimidation allows them to then take parts of the round off, because they've got you under manners worrying about this power, when actually what they're doing is trying to recharge the batteries, because they've just expended a load of energy. They don't have the energy to go anymore. You see it? And so, hey, I'm repeating myself here, but that's the situation that I personally saw in this fight. But be that as it may, credit to Chris Billam-Smith, because I guess he put enough hurt on Isaac Chamberlain to discourage him from pursuing him in those moments when he was trying to catch some respite. And yeah, I thought his body punching was good. I thought that when he came forward, he had the shorter, tighter punches a lot of the time in the exchanges. He was physically stronger. That's something I forgot to mention. He definitely looked like the physically stronger man. Isaac Chamberlain's always been a kind of small cruiserweight. I mean, just look at him here. He's a small cruiserweight. And, he's kind of in no man's land, where he's too big for light heavyweight, but too small for cruiserweight, really. And that's definitely another issue for him. As the fight progressed, Chris Billam-Smith, for my money, was asserting more and more dominance over the fight. It was kind of even, let's say, up until a certain point where they were kind of going back and forth, trading rounds. But by the final third of the fight, my perception, I wasn't scoring it round by round, my perception was that Chris Billam-Smith was in control. And certainly the final 4 rounds put a punctuation mark on the fight, exclamation mark. And I thought that the right man won on the scorecards. Chris Billam-Smith taking a decision over Isaac Chamberlain. So yeah, overall good performance by Chris Billam-Smith, but fighters with a greater aggressive instinct would not have allowed him to get away with selling out like that in the first 4 rounds. Okay, selling out, for those of you who are not familiar with this term in a boxing contest, just simply means expending all your energy early in a fight. He sold out early, and he had to be very careful about energy management throughout the remainder of the 12 rounds, but he was in there against an opponent who allowed him to be careful. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below.